When you truly want something, you will find a way. Else, you will find an excuse. Hi all. I am Manju Sharma, Head of English Department, Anil Nair classes. In this session, I want to take you through the basic fundamental concepts of English grammar. I hope this journey will be enjoyable and fruitful for you. Today, if you want to prepare for any competitive exam, it is your sound knowledge of the basic fundamental concepts of English grammar that come handy. Those same concepts that each one of us had learned while preparing for the examinations in school. It has just so happened that you have lost touch with it because once out of school, you no longer required the English language. You managed to get all your work done with the help of your local or native language. So, you forgot the basic rules that govern the English language. Today, all entrance exams are conducted in English. All group discussions and interviews are held in English. So, there is actually no escape from the language. In fact, it is better to find out which are the areas that you need to work on and then do so. A good command over English makes you a confident person. It in fact enhances your personality. The more you converse in English, the better you become at it. There is no rocket science involved in attaining excellence in the language at all. Now let me take you through the fundamental concepts of grammar, that is, the parts of speech. Learning parts of speech may be considered as the first step towards conquering grammar. These may be identified as the building blocks. Just as learning alphabets is elementary in order to read and write, parts of speech may be considered to have the same elementary function in order to make one understand the use or function of words, and also how the words can be joined together to make meaningful communication. As the title suggests, parts of speech is indeed self-explanatory. Speech is made up of sentences, which in turn are made up of words. Each word in turn is categorized under a group. In very simple words, any sentence can be broken down to each of these parts. When all these parts are joined together, they constitute a meaningful sentence. This also indicates that there is no such word in English language which is not a part of speech. Consider the examples that I give you. First, Jones fell down. If we have to break up the sentence, Jones is a noun, fell is a verb, and down is an adverb. Another one, Sarah looks very excited. If you have to break up this sentence, Sarah is a noun, looks is a verb, very is an adverb, and excited is an adjective. Broadly speaking, actually there are 8 parts of speech in English language, which can be classified into the following subtypes. First, nouns. Second, pronouns. Third, adjectives. Then comes verbs, adverbs, prepositions, conjunctions, and interjections. To start with nouns, a noun is a name of a place, person, thing, idea, animal, etc. Any subject which can be named in a sentence may be called a noun. It may be a word or a group of words. For example, Ted is wearing a sweatshirt. In this sentence, Ted is a noun over here. I have visited the Taj Mahal. Here, Taj Mahal is also a noun, wherein I will be taken as a pronoun also, which replaces the noun. Now, talking about parts of nouns or the varieties of nouns, the first one is the proper noun. These are words that are specific names of any person, place or thing. They begin with the capital letter. They do not represent any class or type, but they specifically point out to the subject. Another example, Malaysia is a beautiful country. In this sentence, Malaysia is the noun. Take another example. Santro is a fuel-efficient car. In this sentence, Santro is the noun. So these words are tangible in nature. You can experience this group of nouns by your senses, That is, they can be seen or touched. Next comes common noun. As the name suggests, these words are generic names, that is a name given to all the elements of the same group. These nouns represent a class or type of objects. They are representative in nature. They are the generic terms which are used to refer to a class of person, place or thing. For example, the boys were up to mischief. In this sentence, the common noun is boys. She ate an apple for her breakfast, wherein the word apple is a common noun. Now in these sentences, it is fairly easy to identify and distinguish a common noun from a proper noun. If you observe carefully, all the proper nouns start with the capital letter because they are specific in nature and point out to a particular person, place, idea or thing. The next category of nouns is the abstract noun. As the name suggests, abstract means something which you cannot see, which you cannot touch, but you can only feel by your senses. So, in a gist, I can tell you that not all nouns are correct or tangible nouns. Some nouns are abstract in nature, that is, they are intangible. For example, intelligence will help you crack the exam. Here, intelligence is the abstract noun which cannot be seen or touched. It can only be felt. Next, eloquence of the orator kept the crowd on its heels. Beauty is not just external appearance. So eloquence, beauty, these are words that form the abstract nouns. The next group is of the collective nouns. This is a name given to a collection of the common elements belonging to the same group. It is always taken as a single unit. For example, a group of students is waiting for the teacher. Here, the collective noun is the group. It is a name given to a collection of students. So, it is taken as a single entity. A flock of sheep is crossing the road. Here, flock is the collective noun. Next comes the compound nouns. As the name suggests, a compound name is made up of more than one word but actually refers to a single entity. It can either have 2 or 3 words. For example, Chief Justice, Chief Guest, Commander-in-Chief, Mother-in-law, etc. Now if you observe, the words are made up of 2 or 3 words, but in fact they refer to a single person. So obviously a compound noun, though it is made up of 2 or 3 words, it will always take a single verb after it because it refers to a single entity. Next we have the countable nouns. Now as the name suggests, the countable nouns are those nouns that can be seen and counted. So anything that you can see and can count, that is classified under this group. For example, it can be a cat, a dog, pen, paper, boy, girl, flower, leaf, orange, apple. In fact, anything that you can see and count, that is a countable noun. So it can be single also, it can be plural also. Next comes the uncountable nouns. In contrast to the countable nouns, anything that you see and cannot count is classified under uncountable nouns. Instead, these can be weighed or measured. For example, sugar, salt, water, sand, all abstract nouns, all units of measurements, all these come under uncountable nouns. To explain to you further, if I tell you the water in the ocean, you immediately can imagine the expanse of that water, the volume of that water. But if I ask you to complete the sentence goes, the water in the ocean is salty and not are salty, although there is so much of water over there. If I give you an example, the sand on the beach, immediately you can imagine how vast the beach is and how much of sand is there. But still, if we have to complete the sentence, we say, the sand on the beach is white in color and not are white in color. What I want to tell you is that all uncountable nouns also take a single verb after them. Please do not confuse yourself between a concrete and an abstract noun. It is fairly easy to distinguish them by asking a few questions. For example, if you take the word loyalty, which is an abstract noun, how does loyalty look? Ask this question. You cannot answer it because you cannot see it. How does it taste? You cannot comment on this question either because you cannot taste it. On the other hand, if you want a concrete noun, say for example, computer, you can definitely answer the questions. How does it look? You can answer because you can see it. What texture is it? Again, you can answer it because you can touch it. The other subdivisions of nouns are plural nouns. Now, all nouns change their form when plurals are concerned. The most common pattern is by addition of s or es at the end of the noun. For example, you can make a plural by addition of s to form a plural. Dog, you add an s, becomes dogs. Chair, chairs, so on and so forth. You can also make a plural by adding es. Wish, wishes. Glass, glasses, so on and so forth. You can also make a plural in which the fe or only the f is replaced by ves. For example, knife becomes knives. Leaf becomes leaves. And then you have the plurals which are formed by replacing us by I. Cactus becomes cacti. Nucleus becomes nuclei. And there are some special cases where the phenomenon becomes phenomena. Child becomes children. Man becomes men. So on and so forth. Now the next broader classification is of the pronouns. Simply speaking, pronouns are words which replace nouns. These are substitutes to nouns. Pronouns are used to simplify a sentence and to reduce the repetition of nouns. These pronouns can be classified into the following categories. First, you have the personal pronouns. Now, as the name suggests, this originates from the word person. That means it refers to specific individual or individuals. Now, in fact, for your knowledge, there are three persons in English. The first person, the second person, and the third person. Now, who's the first person? The speaker is the first person. The listener is the second person. And the person we talk about is the third person. Each of these three persons have a single and a plural form. And all these three persons have a subjective, objective, and a possessive case depending on their usage in the sentence. To give you just a few examples, say if we want to take the first person single, that is I, the speaker. I am traveling tonight. In this sentence, I is in the subjective case. The same first person single, if I have to use it in the objective case, I use it as the principal called me to the office. I cannot say the principal called I to the office. So I, which was in the subjective case, becomes me in the objective case. Then to show the same first person single in the possessive case, I say this is my school. Or this school is mine, depending whether I'm using the active voice or the passive voice in the sentence. Next you come to the first person plural. First person plural is we. So we are good friends. In this sentence, we has been used in the subjective case. The same subjective case, or rather the same first person plural, if I put it in the objective case, it becomes the principal has called us to the office. And then if I want to use the first person plural in the possessive case, I use it as this is our classroom. That is in the active voice. And the same sentence, if I want to say in the passive voice, it goes like this classroom is ours. Now coming to the second person single. Second person is the listener, that is you. So using the second person single in the subjective case, I will say, you have scored very well in your exams. Very simple. You just see who is the subject in the sentence. It is you, and you is the second person over here. So you becomes the subjective case of the second person single. And the same second person single, if I have to use it in the objective case, I say, I will call you, wherein I is the subject and I will call the object, that is you. And now if I want to use the second person single, in the possessive case, I tell you, this is your book, wherein your is the possessive case. Or if I have to say the same sentence in the passive voice, I say, this book is yours. Next, coming to the second person plural. The second person plural, the people who are listening to me. So again, it is you. Using the second person plural in the subjective case, I say, you are my students. And if I have to use the same second person plural in the objective case, I say, the principal has called you. Wherein the principal is the subject and you are the object. So you is the objective case of the second person plural also. Now the same second person plural, if I want to give you the possessive case for that, I say, these are your books. So wherein your is the possessive case. Or to say the same sentence in the passive voice, I say, these books are yours. Next we come to the third person single. Now the third person is the person we talk about. It can be he, she, it, and in plural it will be they. For example, taking the third person single, he is my brother, wherein he is the subjective case of the third person single in the male. In the female, I say, she will perform before you. And it is my pet. So he, she, and it have been used in the subjective case in these sentences. Now, if I want to use the third person single, he, she, or it in the objective case, I can say, the principal called him to his office. So the principal is the subject over there, and him is the object. Or the captain asked her to be confident. In this sentence, the captain is the subject and her is the objective case of the third person single. Next, I will take it for a walk, wherein I am referring to my pet. So I is the subject over here and the third person single in the objective case is written as it. It does not change from the subjective case. Now the same three persons, that is the he, she and it, if I have to give you in the possessive case, I can say that everyone appreciated his work. Or this is her first performance. Or this is its kennel. So his, her and its is the possessive case of the third person single. Next, coming to the third person plural. They are my competitors. In this, they is the subjective case. I do not fear them. Here, them is the objective case of the third person plural. And this is their apartment, wherein there is the possessive case of the third person plural in the active voice. But in the passive voice, it will be, this apartment is theirs. Next, we have the reflexive pronouns. Now, the composition of a reflexive pronoun is a personal pronoun plus self. When a pronoun is written after the verb to show that the action is reflected back on the pronoun mentioned in the beginning, then it plays the role of a reflexive pronoun. For example, I burnt myself. Now, if you observe, here I have my, that is the personal, that is one of the pronouns, the personal pronouns, the possessive case of the first person single, plus self. So when I write it after the verb burnt, I mean to say that I burnt the pronoun that was mentioned just before the verb. So I burnt myself. To show that the action, the act of burning is reflected back on the pronoun that was mentioned at the beginning of the sentence. She tripped. Whom? She tripped herself. In this sentence, the act of tripping is reflected back on her only. So she tripped herself. He rewarded himself. So the act of rewarding is reflected back on the pronoun he that was mentioned at the beginning of the sentence. So to complete it, he rewarded himself. Next we have the intensive or the emphatic pronouns. As the name suggests, these types of pronouns emphasize on the pronoun that they're written next to. These pronouns are also made by adding self to a personal pronoun. It can be herself, himself, myself, yourself, a personal pronoun plus self, just as we did in the reflexive pronoun. Now, for example, I myself invited you for the party. Now here, if you observe, I'm not writing myself at the end of the sentence. I write it right next to the pronoun I to emphasize that I and no one else invited you for the party. She herself came to give the invitation. Now in this sentence, the emphasis lies on the fact that she and no one else. So she herself came to give the invitation. Next set of the pronouns are the interrogative pronouns. Now these pronouns are the interrogative words like who, whom, where, etc. that are usually used in questions. Fairly easy to understand. If you go by the name, they interrogate, or in simple words, they ask questions. So every time you have to identify an interrogative pronoun, you might as well identify the subject of the question. For example, who has taken my luggage? Now here we are looking out for the subject who has taken my luggage. The person who has taken my luggage. So we use the pronoun who. In the next sentence we have, whom should I ask for? Now you'll wonder that if who was the subjective pronoun, why do we put whom also in the subject? In the subjective place wherein the subject should come. Mind you, you must focus who is the subject in the sentence. If you find any difficulty, just read the question in a statement form. I should go asking for which person. So who's the subject here? It is I. I have to go and look out for a person. That person is the object. Therefore, whom is the objective pronoun. But since this is a question, it has to start with the question word. So I write, whom should I ask for? Who will help me? So, who is that person who is going to help me? So here, the subject is who, the person who is going to help me. Next, we have the reciprocal pronouns. As the name suggests, these pronouns are used to express something from one to the other. For example, they like each other. Now, each other is used in specific cases. But if we have to use it in a general way, we can say we must love one another. The next set of pronouns are the relative pronouns. Pronouns that relate one thing in a sentence to something else in a sentence are the relative pronouns. Again, as the name suggests, they relate back to some noun. However, the point of difference is that mostly the other pronouns can replace nouns. But relative pronouns cannot replace nouns but can only relate back to them. For example, the student who scores the best will get the award. So here, who relates which student will get the award? The student who scores the best. Now there are two other relative pronouns, that is that and which. The garage which is down the road is on fire. And the garage that my uncle built is on fire. What is the difference between the two? Which is used when you want to give a general description or a general information. So the garage, now there can be 10 garages down the road. I really don't know which garage. One of the garages which is down the road is on fire. But if I want to specify which particular garage is on fire, then in that case I tell you, the garage that my uncle built is on fire. Another example, the law which was passed last year is in force now. Now I have used which because I really don't know which law it is. It is just a general statement that the law which was passed last year is in force now. But if I want to specify and tell you which law is in force now, so I say the law that bans ragging is in force now. So you use that when you want to give a specific information and you use which when you talk in a general way. The next set of pronouns are the demonstrative pronouns. As the name suggests, they demonstrate objects. They show or point to or identify a noun. For example, this is a very interesting book. That is my laptop. These rabbits have to be fed, whereas those rabbits have to be given a bath. Now, if you carefully read and understand the sentences, you will observe the words this and these refer to objects closer in space. However, words like that and those refer to objects distant in space. Again, this and that are singular, and these and those are plural in nature. Next, we have the indefinite pronouns. In characteristic, these may be considered opposite to the personal pronouns. Although they do identify objects, but they are not specific in nature and do not define anyone in particular. Words like anyone, anybody, anywhere, someone, somebody, somewhere, no one, nobody, nowhere, everyone, everybody, everywhere, all, some, few, one of the, these kind of words are indefinite pronouns. For example, nobody seemed to know the answer. Now we are not talking of anyone particular over here. We are not defining anyone particular. Only a few people witnessed the horror. I don't know exactly what number of people, but only a few people. So nothing definite over here. Did you see someone in the room? Now it can be anyone that you see. But if I say, did you see Ravi in the room? I'm defining the person. But did you see someone in the room? Did you see anyone in the room? That is indefinite. Next set of part of speech are the verbs. Verbs are words which denote an action or a state of the noun. Hence, it is very essential for every sentence to have a verb. In simple language, the action words or the words which denote the state of the noun are verbs. For example, Noha walks fast. Now, if you split it, you see that Noha is a noun. Can you identify the type of noun over here? Yes, Noha is a proper noun because it is a name of a specific person. Walks is a verb. Now you observe the significance of the word walks. It indicates that the subject, that is the noun Noha, is walking. It is denoting the action of Noha in the sentence, hence it is a verb. Sophia looks wonderful. If you split this sentence, Sophia is a noun, which again is a proper noun, and looks is a verb. Now here again, as we can understand, the word looks is denoting or representing the state of the subject or noun, which in this case is Sophia. Cheetahs run fast. Here, cheetahs are the noun and run is the verb. The word run is denoting the action of cheetahs. Now, verbs can be broadly classified into the following categories depending on their significance in the sentence. First, you have the action words. These are words which denote the action of the doer of the subject. Action verbs tell us what the doer or the subject does or has done or is going to do. Action verbs can represent either physical or mental action of the doer or the subject. To illustrate a physical action, I tell you, John eats fast. Sita sings well. Ram is fighting. Now observe in each of these sentences, the highlighted words are denoting the physical action of the subject. These verbs are visible in nature. To show a mental action, Rahul was thinking of his old days. Now here thinking is a mental action, not a physical action. Jones was learning the tables. She considered going for the classes. Now you observe in each of these sentences, the highlighted words are denoting the mental action of the subject or the doer. Next we have the state or the linking verbs. Now the state verbs indicate the state of the subject. They connect the subject and the predicate. Hence they are called the linking verbs. For example, Jones exercises hard. Now Jones is the doer of the action, exercise, hence Jones is the subject. What is the predicate? Predicate is exercises hard. Shweta likes snowboarding. In this sentence, Shweta is the person or the subject who likes snowboarding, hence Shweta is the subject and predicate is likes snowboarding. Swati likes perfumes. Now you observe that the word likes signifies or represents the state of Swati. However, it does not denote any action. Also, it connects the subject to the predicate. Taj Mahal looks magnificent. Again, observe that looks signifies the state of Taj Mahal and does not denote any action. Again, looks here is connecting the subject to the predicate. Now, the next set of verbs is transitive verbs. These verbs require an object for their existence. In simple words, without an object in a sentence, a transitive verb cannot exist. In fact, a transitive verb needs an object to transfer its action onto that. For example, Jones gave money to Sarah. Now here gave is the verb. Now if I remove everything after gave and give you the statement as Jones gave full stop, this sentence would not have been complete, or in other words, it would not mean anything. You can ask a question on it. What did Jones give? You can immediately realize that the next part of the sentence answers the question. Jones gave money. Hence, you can easily conclude that without the object money, the action gave cannot exist. You need to give something. Next, Sarah likes ice cream. Now, as explained in the above example, if you remove ice cream from this sentence, it would cease to exist. You just can't say Sarah likes. What? That is what comes to your mind. And again you realize that the answer to the question lies in ice cream, which is the object over here. Hence, here again as we see, without ice cream the action likes would not make any sense. Another example, Shweta eats rice. If you just say Shweta eats, you will wonder what. So Shweta eats the object, which is the rice. Michael rides a bike. If I remove a bike from there, the sentence is no more a sentence. Michael rides is an incomplete sentence. Next we have the intransitive verbs. Now these verbs do not require any object for their existence. In other words, they can exist without an object. They express action or tell something about the subject without this action referring to an object, as was the case in transitive verbs. For example, the train stopped. Now look carefully. The verb stop does not tell us where or how the train stopped. But the sentence still makes perfect sense without even mentioning the other details like what or how the train stopped. Although the action is present, it does not necessarily need an object to exist. Another example, who called? Again, as you can see, action exists but is not directed towards an object. Hence, it is an intransitive verb. Don't confuse yourself here by saying that the action is being directed to the object. I hope this session has been helpful in clarifying your doubts, if any, to a great extent. Trust me, if you just keep these basics in mind and apply while speaking or writing, you will end up using grammatically correct English. As a result, your confidence levels will boost, which will be your passport to success definitely. Wishing one and all a happy learning.